Hello and welcome back to another video. I am so glad you're here. On this channel, I talk about news, controversies, and drama on the bookish side of the internet, and I certainly hope that you will stick around. In today's video, we are talking about an author who keeps getting more and more controversial, and that is Jessa Hastings. She's most well known for being the author of the Magnolia Parks books, a contemporary romance series that still has books to be released. She's also written 3 standalone books, including Time of Your Life, which just released on July 15th, 2025. She's most recently come under fire for her defense of generative AI usage, but we've got a lot to cover before we get there, so settle in. So Jessa Hastings is an Australian native who moved to the US several years ago, and she currently lives in Los Angeles. She's married to Benjamin William Hastings, who is a singer-songwriter for Capital Christian Music Group and a former member of Hillsong United and Hillsong Worship. Jessa herself actually grew up as a member of the Hillsong Church, and if you're not familiar with Hillsong, I definitely recommend looking into that. But basically, it's an Australian Christian megachurch that has since found its way to countries all over the world, and it's not great. I personally find cults and fundamentalist religions to be fascinating, so if anyone else does, I highly recommend the documentary series The Secrets of Hillsong on Hulu. The church has been the subject of numerous controversies, including misuse of government funds, sexual abuse, covering up said sexual abuse, criticized for their views on homosexuality, abortion, and Black Lives Matter. They have been accused of being a cult and a high-control religion, and while Jessa doesn't currently claim to be Hillsong, her husband, being so deeply affiliated, leads me to believe that she does hold at least some of Hillsong's beliefs. So, Jessa's first book was Magnolia Parks, and it was self-published in 2021. I actually did attempt to read this like a year or so ago, but I DNF'd it after about 30% because, in my opinion, the characters were insufferable and there was no plot. But that's neither here nor there. I just always feel like I need to, chime in with my opinions when I have the opportunity. And also, if someone could explain this cover to me, I'd be forever grateful. I don't know if I'm just missing something because I did not finish the book, but I don't get this. So thanks to Book Talk, this debut became really popular really fast, and she followed it up with Daisy Hates, an interconnected story and another cover that I don't really understand. So currently there are a total of 5 books out in the series, and they follow the format of like alternating main characters. So the books that have already been published are Magnolia Parks, Daisy Hates, Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, Daisy Hates The Great Undoing, and Magnolia Parks Into the Dark, the last of which was released in 2024. But fans of this series have been waiting on the next Daisy book since 2022. Now, the books in this universe follow 20-something London socialites with a lot of money and nothing to do. Magnolia is the main character. She's the biracial daughter of a big shot music producer, and her love interest, and I use this term loosely because this is the most toxic couple ever and I hate them, is BJ. And he spends the books sleeping with other people and then also insisting that Magnolia is the one. So the plot of these books isn't really super important, but I figured I would at least, give you a little something. So despite Jessa being chronically online and available to her fans, she also seems to kind of hate them. So she frequently does AMAs or like Ask Me Anythings on her Instagram, and she's often pretty rude and condescending to her readers. She gets asked a lot of questions about when the next Daisy Hates book is coming out, and she really doesn't like being asked about this. She never gives an answer though. And so this person asked, I know you're not writing it, but will we have Daisy 3 before Varley, which is another book series that she's discussed writing? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not being evasive. I genuinely don't know. I have a lot going on that isn't stuff you guys know about or are aware of yet. And Daisy 3 specifically is a really complicated write for me at the minute for both practical and creative reasons. I need books for me to go back to being a fun and enjoyable place for me. It's been a weird byproduct of how successful a series has been, with how some people have reacted and treated me and my stories through their own weirdly misguided passion for my stories, have sapped so much of the delight I used to find in writing these people. And as I said, there's so much more than what you guys see and know, and I actually just need to be able to enjoy writing and enjoy stories for a little while. I need to feel in control of the worlds I'm writing, which is hard to feel when I have strangers on the internet who've never written coherent direct messages, let alone a book in their lifetime, barking at me that I'm doing it wrong. I need to feel enchanted by what I'm working on. I need the escapism of being lost in my own worlds again for a little while. So maybe it'll be Daisy 3 first. Maybe it'll be Varley. Maybe it'll be Grover. Maybe it'll be Death. I'm just going on the assumption that these are books she's discussed reading. I could not find like anything concrete, but maybe it'll be the one I accidentally started writing on Tuesday. IDK. We'll see. So here's the thing. I get what she's saying. I really do. But the way she says it is just rude. And it's like she's upset that people feel strongly about her books. But instead of getting off the internet and putting everything else out of her head so she can focus on writing, which is, her career, she blames the readers for asking too much of her and insults her fans. So here's one from literally yesterday as I'm recording this video, and she is doing an AMA about her newest book, Time of Your Life. Don't get mad, but what made you start writing the second book for this, it's becoming a series, and not Daisy Hates 3? I think it's the lack of pressure. You guys need to understand, as much as you love them, as real as they feel to you, they are all the more real to me. You guys know Daisy. Do you think she's doing anything because someone else wants her to? Do you think you could ever force her hand? You have spooked her out of my brain. She's gone MIA, she's on the lam, she's not taking calls. Just leave her be for a while and she'll come knocking on my brain again. But you can't force her, or me, it'll only take longer. She'll tell me her story when she wants to. Until then, I have other stories to tell and you can or cannot read them, up to you. Just say that you have like writer's block or you just aren't feeling inspired. I don't know. Daisy's a character, not a real person, so she's not going to tell you her story when she wants to. And as people are like continuously discovering Jessa's books, she's going to keep being asked the same question about the 6th book in the Magnolia Parks universe. And I get that it's probably annoying, but every time she does an AMA like this, she like throws up a few of these. So we have someone said, loving Time in Your Life, but when are we getting the next Daisy book? She puts like a guy that's like exasperated looking. When does the 6th book of the Magnolia Parks universe come out? And it's like a sad cat. And so I'm just like, ma'am, you don't have to answer those. If those questions bother you, you can just not. Her fans are getting sick of this too. These Reddit posts that I'm about to show you were posted in response to this particular AMA she did yesterday. She honestly needs to get off socials if the question triggers her this much. I think the people sending threats over a book are insane, but innocently asking when the book is coming out isn't something to roll your eyes over. Because I agree with you, not everyone is dialed into her socials and knows she hates being asked. Surprise, surprise, Jessa does another Q&A on IG. Feel like she's obsessively focusing on people's opinions. She actively sets up a Q&A box, chooses which questions to answer, and somehow always picks a Daisy question to get pissy over. As if she doesn't have a choice. Exactly. I don't understand why she doesn't hire a social media person to field her accounts and stop logging on. Her releasing multiple book schedules doesn't help. And to blame your readers that they've chased a character out of your brain, girl, please. I could not find any such, like, book schedules, but I have to just assume it exists. I guess she's, like, told people what she plans on releasing general timelines, so I don't know. She shouldn't keep doing Q&A if she's going to have an attitude when the next Daisy book is always going to be the most asked question. The way she is saying "you guys" in a demeaning way, when it's the readers who have made her a popular author, is so crazy. I don't believe anyone should be harassing her for the next book or being rude. I understand her being frustrated, but it's just every single week she's going on a new rant about it. Like, just ignore it at this point. And she's waiting on Daisy to tell her story. I love these books, but these are not real people, so I don't understand her saying we're waiting on a fictional Carrie to tell her story. Just say you don't know what to write, / are waiting on inspiration to hit, because the way she's acting like she's an actual human is so weird to me. I understand fans can be too much, and she can feel the pressure, but she does a lot of Q&A, and people are going to ask her about Daisy because they are excited. There's also a lot of people who maybe missed her previous answers, or are new and they don't know she doesn't have any plans to finish the series anytime soon. It's natural to ask those questions if they do it in a polite way. Also, if she gets annoyed because people truly care about her work to the point it's shutting her brain down, maybe prioritize your well-being and stop doing Q&As. I think she should have used a pen name. It seems she does not enjoy the spotlight, valid, but it's not something you can get out of at this point. Nah, she loves the attention and spotlight. I second this. Actually, she loves the attention and the spotlight, demonstrated by the gratuitous photo shoots of herself, photo dumps of her outfits constantly, and doing a Q&A like once a week. I love her writing, but I've been finding her to be a bit vapid lately. Well, she said more than once that Magnolia is largely based on herself, and that's becoming more and more obvious, lol. As mentioned, Magnolia is like a socialite, kind of it girl, and I guess it's kind of vapid. I feel like Jessa wanted to be an influencer, but instead she wrote a book, and so now she's like using that to like live her influencer dreams. Just a theory. So this is another question that was asked in her AMA that resulted in a little crash out moment for her. So are Joa and Iz, who are the main characters in this book, like confirmed endgame, there's no chance for Rich at all? And she replies, I have to ask, are other authors out there confirming to you the endings of their stories before they've written it? Like, why is this a question I keep being asked? This is sheer insanity. I am not telling you. And this is a woman that writes in the romance genre. So just sit with that for a minute. So a few hours after this, she pops up with this in her like Instagram channel so that she can send messages on, but like nobody can reply to them. Well, I learned today that many actual traditionally published authors do tell the endings to their books. So basically, I hate it here. Not here. Here is great. I hate it in Bookland. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. To clarify, I will never tell you. I hate this so much. I hate that authors do that. I feel like they don't take our job seriously. It's an honor and a privilege to get to tell stories, and they're just giving away the ending to appease the impatient. Fuck on off, not in my house. So on Threads, someone screenshotted that, says, no, seriously, Jessa Hastings has a problem. She's really saying she hates other authors for not taking the job seriously because they guarantee a happy ending for their readers. And then she posts this, which, yeah, truly bizarre behavior. Other comments say, why is she always crashing out over the dumbest shit? IDK, I swear, every time she talks, she's always saying something really stupid. She gives very pick-me girl vibes. She's not like other authors. Not to mention romance books literally require a happy ending, LMAO. She is being ignorant as usual. Is she really saying that a guaranteed happily ever afters is giving the ending away? The author who supports AI saying they don't take our job seriously is hilarious and hypocritical. Her books better not have a synopsis on them. Wouldn't want people to have any idea what they're getting into, right? Ew. For real. Imagine being an author and talking like that about your colleagues. She's also being really ignorant about the industry because authors don't just tell the ending to their readers. It's that there's a genre where you're guaranteed a happily ever after.
Hey guys, sorry for the quality of this video. I'm on my phone. I couldn't be bothered to get the whole thing out, but I just wanted to share a little something else that Jessa posted, like just pretty shortly after that AMA, and where she posted in her Instagram channel. So she said, pretty disappointed to learn someone from this channel, meant to be a safe space for me to discuss my books with my readers, has been compromised. I'm not sure whether this channel will stay active anymore. I know the vast majority of you are complete angels, but it's tricky figuring out how to stay engaged with the people I love engaging with, and how to keep myself safe from the ones who want to cause me harm and chaos. It's demoralizing and exhausting, and every day I lean a little further away from wanting any involvement with the online book community. Don't misunderstand that as me saying they've won. I'm not going to stop writing. I will write books till I die. Those kind don't have and never have had that kind of power, nor will they beyond an angry momentary rant behind a keyboard. That was a sentence. They won't, just as they never have, dictate what stories I write, who about, and in what order. They don't decide anything, but I do decide what access I allow people to have to me more soon. So, I think she's annoying. I'm just gonna leave it there. Couple things people posted on Threads, though, after. Can't anyone access a person's broadcast channel? These aren't the private conversations she's making it out to be. I'll write books till I die. No one was saying you couldn't, just maybe be less of a see you next Tuesday. Does she know it's not a group chat and anyone can join? Every time I see anything related to Jessa, she's always involved in some kind of nonsense. Like, does she not get tired? What the fuck did I even just read? LMAO, yikes. So, I mean, that's just a little addition, a little kind of follow up to the way that that all happened. I saw it. I haven't posted this video yet, even though I did record it. I just couldn't. I couldn't put it to bed without adding that in there. So enjoy the rest of the video. Bye.
She also frequently threatens to kill off fan favorite characters when her readers annoy her, which just feels immature. Like, she obviously wants people to read her books because otherwise she wouldn't have a job, but then she seems to get irritated that people are invested in her characters. So I truly don't get it. Here's an example of her discussing it and like why she's always doing that.
Great question. Thanks for asking. Primarily because the people they have a problem with respect me not at all. And so I don't really return it. The honest to God truth is I don't feel entitled to a readership. I'm writing these stories because they came to me. I joke about killing Julian to piss people off because they piss me off. I would never kill off a character that wasn't already gonna die. So I'm not saying Julian is gonna die. I'm not gonna say Julian's not gonna die because, as I've always said, the story is the story. The story has always been the story, and the story will remain the story regardless of what anyone thinks. Follow up. I am also not mad that people love a character I create. That is obviously the dream. What I do get mad about is the absolute lack of self-awareness that many of these people seem to have when it comes to approaching me about my own work, and also the lack of respect and the kind of like the parasocial dynamic that they feel so entitled to speak about a story that's my story, that's my creation. You want to make a story of your own, have at it, but my story is not your story to write. What I write, that's my business. If you want to read it, that's your business. I'm going to write what I'm going to write. I'm so glad people love Julian. I love Julian, but it's too much. The dynamic is stupid.
Now, we all know how I feel about readers sharing their opinions with authors, but this feels to me like a little bit of a different situation. Because, like, diehard fanatics of the series talking about, like, relationship pairings they'd like to see doesn't seem disrespectful to me as long as it's phrased correctly in a nice, respectful way. Imagine, like, a writer of fan fiction who puts two different characters in a couple that weren't in the, like, original series, and then the author finding that offensive. Because that's pretty much what this is. And, I guess she just doesn't, she takes that as, like, a criticism of the way she wrote it, which I just don't feel like that's the intention, and I don't think I would see it that way, but still kind of an immature response to, like, threaten the character to be killed off. So, despite not knowing with confirmation if she is currently a practicing Christian, she does hold some pretty conservative beliefs, and in another one of her many, many AMAs, she answered a question she was asked on abortion. I think it's murky. Would I get an abortion personally? No. But do you know what? I come from a wealthy first world family. I have free healthcare, I have a supportive partner, and I have easy access to birth control. My life experience is very different to the vast majority of people on Earth. I was born into privilege, and not acknowledging that is stupid and dangerous. Now, gun to my head, am I pro-life or pro-choice? If you're forcing me to give black and white answer, the answer is pro-life. But that's if you're making me choose between black and white, when really the answer is gray. The answer is nuanced because life is nuanced. I've never been assaulted, I've never been poor, I've never been in an abusive relationship, I've never had to worry about medical bills, but this is not the vast majority's reality. I don't think we can say we're pro-life without being pro-all life until we're giving women better avenues to adopt out these babies, until there's a free healthcare for everyone, until we're providing families with postnatal care. If you are pro-life, there's a duty of care you have, you personally, that extends beyond babies and tummies, but to babies in broken homes, to babies who are unwanted when they arrive, to mothers who didn't want to have babies, to mothers who can't feed the babies she already has, to women who can't afford their hospital bills. You can't pick and choose. Pro-life means you're pro all lives all the time. She's an editor. I will say this also. I don't think it's simple as my body, my choice. I think that's wrong and a reactionary statement that women spout when they feel their voice is being silenced. I think it goes much further and wider than my body, my choice, and I think there are circumstances where women have every right in the world to say that, but I don't think it's necessarily true as a blanket statement. I don't think the phrase does pro-choicers any favors either, because it comes off quite callous and unconsidered, when actually I think you'll find most women getting an abortion have considered every other option before arriving there. I'll add this, I don't think there's a person in the world, who wakes up and thinks to themselves, yes, I'm so glad to get to have an abortion today. I don't think anyone wants that. So what are my thoughts on abortion to recap? Of course I'd rather all babies lived. Of course, who wouldn't? If I'm black and whiting it, I'm pro-life, but there is a gun to my head and I'm not comfortable with it because no matter what I think, whatever I think it because I'm privileged. I know that I have a very first world experience of life and that experience hedges my thoughts and options and choices, just as much as someone who doesn't come from privilege is hedged by their experiences. I think it's nuanced and gray, and I think we as a society need to treat it as such. And guys, please be gentle when you discuss it, be kind to one another. You don't know what people have been through, you don't know why or how. Have opinions if you want to, but be kind when you engage with others. When you're talking to people about this, try to talk to them how you would if Jesus was sitting right behind you auditing everything you said. I'm glad that she at least has the self-awareness to know that as a person with wealth, she will never be in a situation where she needs an abortion and can't get one. I don't want to go on a whole rant about this subject, but yes, Jessa, it really is as simple as my body, my choice. And I don't care if you think it comes off as callous, because if you don't live in my body, you don't get to decide what happens to it. And you're right, no one does wake up excited to get an abortion, except those who are just so relieved to no longer be pregnant. Do you know how we make abortion rates go down? Access to birth control and comprehensive sex education. I'm glad she acknowledges her privilege, but for someone who keeps using the word nuance, she really leaves a lot of it out of her answer. And for the record, even if every single person on the planet had the exact same amount of privilege that she does and that, like, I do, I would still be pro-choice. I still think it's a person's right to choose. It doesn't matter if they have support from the community or whatever. Okay, anyways. Here is a snippet from her book, The Conditions of Will, that had a lot of readers raising their eyebrows as well. I was alerted to this over on Threads. This part of the new Jessa Hastings book, considering how problematic she is, I found it so weird, and this is what she writes in the book. The way people there conflate their political alignment with the personal identity. Being a Republican or being a Democrat in America is, for so many people, akin to racial identity. Now that I don't live in America anymore, that strikes me as so weird. Because honestly, neither party is great these days, and when you personalize something to the extent many people do in politics, anytime anyone questions something the party does, it can feel like they're questioning you, and that's just plain unhealthy. Girl, what? This is only true if you are in the MAGA cult. If my political party is doing something shady and is being criticized for it, I'm not offended, and honestly, I'm probably also criticizing it. And saying something like neither party is great these days is wild. Like, trying to even put those two parties on the same level is off the wall, and like, that's really could be harmful. In 2023, she released a book called Never, which is a Peter Pan retelling set after Peter has actually grown up into a 19-year-old, which I don't really get because that's not the Peter Pan story I've ever been aware of, but I'll just assume it's explained somehow because I'm not reading the book to find out. The female main character is named Daphne, and that's Wendy's 17-year-old granddaughter. And then the antagonist is Jem Hook, who is Captain Hook's son. But there's also like a love triangle going on. The issues people have with this book mainly are like the repeated counting down to Daphne turning 18 and like sexualizing this girl who, yes, is a minor. Very gross. And then some language used that was apparently unintentionally offensive, but I don't know. I think someone should have realized this might come off not the way she intended. So she uses the phrase, so tan he looks dirty, to describe a character. And then she also uses the term brownies to refer to like the house elf guys, which is related to Scottish folklore, but most people don't know that. And the only reason I know that is because I'm originally from Cleveland and Brownie the elf was the mascot of the Cleveland Browns for a time. She did end up making a statement about the racial issues in Never. I want to talk about some of the concerns readers have brought up about specific language in Never that they felt was racially insensitive. Truthfully, my heart has been so heavy and so sad these last few days as I've heard how these words that I intended only to bring wonder and joy have brought any of you any pain. As a storyteller, one of the greatest joys of my life to date has been creating characters who so many of you have loved and championed because of what they represent to everyone, especially us biracial people. It has been and will remain always to be my goal and intention to keep bringing you diverse, complex, beautiful human characters who are worthy of your adoration and eyes. With all this in mind, I've chosen to revise 3 descriptions in the book. 2 characters previously described with unintentionally insensitive language, which will now be depicted in a manner that avoids the connotations and instead focuses on their sun-exposed appearances because Neverland has so many suns, and they're both under them all the time. As well, the term brownie will be clarified with a footnote, providing its folklore context. These will be updated immediately across ebooks, audio, and in all future reprints. This week has changed the way that I'll write moving forward, and from this point on, I'm going to be more conscious of the language I use and how it might fall upon all ears. So credit where credit is due. I very much appreciate that she jumped in to take accountability and make things right away. Okay, so now into the more current drama. Back in March, Jessa posted the following on her Instagram story. For about 3 minutes tonight, I was going to start Instagramming as Magnolia. On a whim at 4 in the morning, me, the creator of Magnolia and BJ, asked ChatGPT to whip up a photo of them. I wanted to make sure Magnolia's skin color was properly represented and not lightened how she often is in Pinterest polls. But this was the immediate response, and there is an AI-generated image on the screen. Not the AI art instead of real artist drawings of her. Ew, not AI, to which Jessa says, believe it or not, they're not actually real, so it's hardly as though I can just zip over to Holland Park and take their picture. I feel like Magnolia would be repulsed by AI art. I don't know who this person is, but it ain't BJ. So, as she said, she wanted to make sure that this rendering of Magnolia was accurately shown as being biracial, but, setting aside the AI conversation for a moment, that is a white lady, and you can't change my mind. BJ is meant to be a white man, and they have the same skin color. So, she then continues with CC the meanies. The girl is like filing her nails and it says me, and in the background explosion it says Julian, you did this. And this is of course in reference to the character from Magnolia Parks mentioned before, implying that if she ends up killing him off, it's everyone else's fault for like bothering her about stuff. The next slide says, to the people that sent me those DMs, the second I spot one of my red flag words, I delete, and whoosh, gone forever and ever is your stupid, unkind message off into the abyss. I really want those people to know that their messages don't fall on deaf ears, but no ears at all, or eyes. I don't read them. And then you cease to exist to me. And again, are they stupid and unkind words, or are they just words holding you accountable for your actions? Next one says, IDK, what I've done to misrepresent myself in such a way that people feel like they can speak to me however they want, demand things of me, my characters, and my stories. I've no idea why some people feel entitled to tell me I wrote my own book wrong. I can only assume it's because they've misgauged me as a passive or bullyable person. I regret to inform you that was a miscalculation on their behalf. And I know people can be insane, and maybe some folks did send her horrible DMs, but given the amount of drama that she seems to carry around with her, I'm just kind of more inclined to take this all with a grain of salt. Then we see a screenshot of a story where it's a picture of Jojo Siwa, and it says, Magnolia, I hadn't realized the theme was to come dressed as my personal nightmare, like she was saying this. And then over top, we could have had the whole Instagram page of this shit from Magnolia, but now, nope, I like my piece too much. So again, I didn't see this when it was initially posted, but I'm pretty sure this was what she had posted immediately after the AI picture, but before she had gotten backlash for it. And look, I'm the first to admit that I don't care for this woman or her books and that I'm biased, but this is dumb. Instagramming as her main character, and then she's talking about how she can't just go take their pictures because they aren't real, so she must use AI. Like, there's no consistency. She also uses it as an excuse to not have her Daisy book out yet. Like, she needs to, like, I I don't know. I just feel like it's weird behavior. But anyway, so now that's not going to happen because, like, literally, what is even the point when people are so ready to only see the worst in any given thing? What a terrible way to live. And then she posted this screenshot of, like, a DM conversation she had with a friend. Ha 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 ha. You should reply, have fun waiting for Daisy Hates 3. Adam, I literally had to stop myself. I was going to, on the googly eye post, say, well, that just added another 2 years on how long you're going to have to wait for Daisy 3. Let it be known, my dear friend, Adam the Brave is a menace to the Magnolia Parks universe, lol. So I'm not going to claim to know how, like, publishing contracts work or, like, you know, I understand that they're all individually different. But according to this Instagram post she made back in March 2023, her contract is for a 7-book series, of which only 5 have been published. I kind of forgot to mention that. In 2023, she had her books picked up by a traditional publisher. And again, I'm no expert, but, like, is there not a deadline on these things? And, like, again, I'm sure that it's case by case, different contracts are different, but you would think that would be somewhere in there. Or does she really have the ability to keep putting off writing these books without penalty? These are genuine questions, and I doubt anyone can answer them because I'm sure this, again, is a case-by-case sort of thing. But if you have had a contract for a book with, like, a multi-part series, let me know. Let me know how that is. Either way, it's lame that she's threatening her readers with waiting longer to write her book because, like, they held her accountable. Like, I understand she doesn't owe them anything, but the fact is that she needs her readers in order to continue on this career path, so why talk like this? And I do kind of think that she sees herself as invincible as far as the way she treats readers. So yes, most people aren't on Book Talk or Bookstagram, but they might see her books on a book talk table at, like, Barnes & Noble and then pick up the book without knowing anything about her. So yes, she'll still have readers, but the people who are keeping her in the spotlight are the ones she's alienating. So she needs to be careful with this kind of behavior because if she alienates her readers, her core readership, then they're not going to promote her books on Book Talk and other places. And then they're not going to end up on Book Talk tables in the store. And then people who aren't on the internet or that part of the internet aren't going to buy them. So she has since come out to say that she does use ChatGPT for research.
How do you research for your books?
This is a great question. I used to just research regularly. In the last 6 months, I have been using ChatGPT and it has been absolutely game-changing for me. As someone with ADHD who struggles very much with undistractibility, I am down every single rabbit hole path, whatever. Every single path that my brain could take that isn't what I'm meant to be doing, my brain's going to take it. Usually when I'm Googling something, I'm taking 95 side quests to figure it out. One time for Magnolia, I had to look up oysters. It took 2.5 hours to round myself off of the oyster. I just needed to know the kind of oyster that she was ordering for a party. Ridiculous. Enter ChatGPT, where I can ask, I need the most expensive oyster that could be shipped to London within a day of being caught in this month of the year. It tells me straight away. I ask ChatGPT all of my research questions.
I know people use ChatGPT all the time, but they really shouldn't. In addition to it being horrible for the environment, it's often inaccurate, and I certainly hope she's double and triple checking every last bit of information she gets from it. Okay, so we're shifting gears here for a second, but it will all make sense, so stay with me. Back in June, one of the biggest book talk creators out there did a really misguided sponsorship, and it's since been removed. So I had to, like, screen record from someone else's video, so I'm sorry, but here it is.
So, like, what if I told you you could create the ultimate enemies to lovers arc between you and your dream book boyfriend? I just discovered character AI scenes, and I've been doing exactly that. Now, whenever I'm in a reading slump, I remember character AI scenes feature lets you co-write stories and bring books and characters to life. A personal favorite element of these stories is role-playing different scenarios with a morally gray MMC of my choosing. My current favorite scene I have ongoing for quite some time is Summer Nights the Secret Vampire, where I find out that Kale Draco, my morally gray dragon rider grumpy MMC, has been hiding the fact that he's a vampire from me this whole time. It took me months to trust this man, so mistake on my end, because now we're in an enemies to lovers back to enemies situation. And this is one of my favorite moments from this scene. You gesture like you're going to cup his cheek with affection before sheathing your claws and grabbing him by the throat.
So the backlash was swift and fierce. A book talker, Jules, says, oh, well, you were my favorite book talker. Mariana says, I'm so sorry. I'm working so hard to find a way to be able to address this because so much is out of my control brand-wise, but I promise I have immediately heard all of you, and I know this is wrong. I'm trying my best to approach this with care. I made a mistake and have had so many kind people reach out to help educate me on the situation, and I don't want people to think I'm sitting around doing nothing. And Jules says, I say this with so much respect because I know a lot of people are attacking you and I don't want to, but a bag is never worth your morals. A paycheck isn't worth the backlash. A brand deal is never more important than your community. Sincerely, a fellow content creator. And Mariana replies, I completely agree wholeheartedly, which is why I'm trying to do everything I can to problem solve with the brand. It just takes a lot more back-end effort than you might realize, but I'm trying. On Threads, French and Bookish says, I'm so tired of all these people, and by all these people, I'm talking about Mariana here, but it applies to everyone who does the same thing. Backpedaling after being called out about promoting AI and pretending they didn't know how harmful it was. And thank you for educating me. Please be for fucking real. Don't be fooled. They knew exactly what they were doing. If you don't know how harmful AI is by now, you literally just got on the internet. Another user says, if she cared, the video would be gone. While it remains, it's all lip service. Rena Reed says, so I'm not supporting her in any way, but I will say she's in a legally binding contract, so it's not as simple as just deleting it. I get it. And then this person comes back and says, yeah, I totally get that, but if you don't have clauses in your contract to protect you from something like this, that's poor management. You see, I am the poor manager in my case. Wasn't going to add my 2 cents, but I saw this comment by Mariana. And it says, someone says, you guys have to remember she's human. Being popular on Book Talk does not change that. Humans make mistakes. It's how we grow and learn. And Mariana replied, yeah, I messed up real bad. I think just how everyone reacted is further confirmation that I don't belong here. And so this user says, really? Okay, bet. Delete your account with 500,000 followers. Oh, you make a lot of money from it, so you can't? No kidding. She then made this apology video, which I don't think could have possibly come off as less sincere, but that's just my opinion.
I'm not gonna bullshit you. I'm not gonna act like I'm perfect because I simply am not. As you may or may not know, I just shared AI in one of my posts, and I truly was negligent and did not understand the harmful impact that could have on the writer, reader, and author space and artist space. I was uneducated. I did not take the time to educate myself more, and as a creator with a large following, that is my responsibility to do. I took what I thought the app was at surface level and went with it. Should I have researched more? Absolutely. I just want to sit here and take full accountability for I took part in a partnership that harms the writer, reader, author space. Point blank, period. There are going to be plenty of people, rightfully so, that think she just should have known. I don't care what she has to say. She just should have known. She should have known. I should have known, and I didn't. So if that's how you feel, that's okay. That's okay. Like, you don't need to be around me. I'm sure that video was for enough people to say that leaves an unsavory taste in my mouth. I want no part of that. That's fine. I support you. Protect your peace. I just want to let you guys know that I know what I did was wrong. And I want to change moving forward. And I am making an effort to change moving forward. And I'm so grateful for the people that reached out to me, the authors that reached out to me and educated me, gave me resources, like let me know, hey, like, I know you probably did this with good intentions, but this is how harmful this is to this space. Like, read this article. Like, I'm looking out for you. And I'm so sorry for those who I've hurt and affected along the way. Again, that was never my intention. Really grateful though that this community, for the most part, did take the time to educate me and let me know what's going on so that I could see that, like, so that I could own my shit. Because sometimes that's just all it is. Sometimes people just are stupid. Will everyone be happy with this? No. Will so many people still call me a sellout? Yes, absolutely. Will people say that I should have known better so it doesn't matter? Yes. Will people bring up every single thing I've done under the sun as reasons why you shouldn't like me? Yes. And I apologize if I have made you feel uncomfortable or me being a creator has caused you harm. That's never been my intention. I just wanted to own my shit, take a step back, and hopefully be back to finding joy just in reading alone again.
I could probably do another entire video on Mariana, but this is not that video. Just wanted to make sure that, you had the full context. So Jessa Hastings decided to pop up with her own take because of course she did. She says, seeing an obscene amount of hate on Book Talk lately. This week it's been pointed to one of the sweetest, genuinely most lovely creators on there, and I'm sick to my stomach because they are an actual person. You can try and justify the backlash they're receiving, but you actually just need to recognize what's happening for what it is. It might be under the guise of virtue signaling, but it's just plain old bullying and harassment, and I think it's revolting. If you have partaken in it, I think you're revolting too. And I am so fucking sick of people claiming that accountability is the same as bullying. This is the internet. So yes, I am sure there are some people that take stuff too far, but being called out is not the same as being bullied or harassed. And that's not an opinion, that's facts. Jessa then continues her nonsense with a full-on meltdown. Last thing I'll say about it. Spoiler alert, it's not. Everyone who's giving that creator shit for using AI, you better be so fucking above reproach in your own self-righteous little lives. I mean, like, you better never have used autocorrect and predictive text. Better have face unlocking turned off on your phone's fingerprint scanning too. And you sure as shit better not be using Siri or Alexa. You had better not have purchased anything through a targeted ad or a product recommendation. You definitely cannot have ever interacted with a chatbot on an online store before. And I hope your spam filter's off. And you better not have tabbed a smart reply on Gmail. I hope your grammar's perfect because no Grammarly for you either. I also hope you've never watched anything Netflix has recommended you, and I know for sure you're not listening to Discover Weekly on Spotify. I presume every time you open TikTok to spew your hate, you are completely horrified by your AI-generated algorithm that brings you your homepage. And thank God you're fucking Magellan when it comes to navigation, because your pious ass would never be caught dead using Google Maps or Waze. And I know that the next time your bank texts you fraud detection, was this you, and it in fact was not you, that you're going to pass on that refund the bank would have supplied you because those texts are AI-driven, and fuck AI, right? You're so above it, you don't ever use it, which is why you're able to stone people who do. You don't have a Roomba, you wouldn't be caught dead with a Ring camera, and you definitely don't use an Apple Watch, an Aura Ring, or a Whoop. And most obviously, you've never once in your whole entire life used an Instagram filter, a TikTok voice changer, or a background swap. So you on your AI high horse, I hope to God your hands are well clean of all of the above, or else you're nothing but a giant hypocrite, and a bit of a prick. Bye. So yeah, those are certainly all words. This is quite the diatribe, which, as I'm sure you guessed, became the talk of the bookish internet. On Threads, if my Roomba could steal authors' works and then train itself to use those stolen works to profit for itself and others instead of the original creator, then I would throw my Roomba away. Do people no longer have two brain cells to rub together? It honestly feels that way. Somebody needs to let Jessa Girl know that there is a difference between generative AI and assistive AI, but I mean, go off, boo, off your rocker, but off nonetheless. This is so ridiculous, I can't even take it seriously. How can she be this misinformed after everything? This is just... Talk about a crash out. Picture Jessa Hastings reaching so hard to defend her book talk friend by comparing generative AI, which steals IP from authors like herself, to Google Maps, autocorrect, and a Roomba. Like, girly pop, you cannot be this obtuse. I hope you're the first one signing up to feed your IP into AI teaching algorithms. And there's a picture of Mr. Rogers with like a clown mask. Oh, but she did not stop there. And because I'm getting a little bit of pushback about generative AI versus assistive AI, I can see the point these people are trying to make, but I believe they're just trying to make a semantic distinction to avoid the broader point. No, they're not. It's important. Like, yeah, generative AI is a subset of AI, but it's still AI. The generative part doesn't zippity-doo-dah it into an entirely separate moral category, even if you want it to be in one. Yes, it does. That's what that word means. That's the word that makes it bad. I'm pointing out the hypocrisy of these keyboard warriors stoning creators for using AI when we all benefit from AI daily. Again, whether that's predictive text, fraud detection, facial recognition, whatever. It's unavoidable. You are, just as I am, participating in an AI-augmented world. And if you think generative AI is the start of the AI job apocalypse, I'm sorry to tell you that chicken already quietly flew the coop. Where was your outrage when factory line workers were replaced with robotic arms? What about when welding robots replaced human welders? What about warehouse and shipping prep staff, who've all been replaced by automated cameras and sorting systems? Statistically, since the 1980s, somewhere between 4 to 5 million people have lost manufacturing jobs due to automation alone. So where was your outrage over that? You just didn't notice because it didn't draw or write stories or songs. Nobody cared when AI was quietly taking jobs from factory workers and delivery drivers and phone reps and warehouse staff and security guards and assistants. But now that it's skirting the edge of creative and white-collar jobs, suddenly now it's a moral emergency? Spare me. Assistive AI already wiped out millions of jobs. It just didn't look like ChatGPT. It looked like a worker getting laid off in Nebraska when a machine learned how to do his job twice as fast and without health insurance. My point is, this isn't about whether generative AI is technically different to assistive AI. It's about the self-righteousness of these people pretending they're morally above it when they're not. And they never have been. They just like having something to yell about. So unless you've opted out of every form of machine learning, deep learning, and smart automation, I don't want to hear a fucking word about it. The end, no notes. Imagine being so wrong so loudly. I would be embarrassed for her if I didn't think she was such a shitty person, because I don't care if she embarrasses herself, but again, she's wrong. This thread's user, author Laura Carter, says not to be pedantic, Jessa Hastings, but it took me a whopping 2 minutes to find you an example that proves people have always complained about and protested in each wave of industrial revolutions and the fears of technology replacing jobs. It's also a theme alongside social construct narrative in a lot of literature during the industrial revolutions. Yet again, though, you're missing the point and picking and choosing what fits your narrative to distract from the focus of the conversations. It really makes a person wonder if she's willing to ride this hard for AI if she hasn't used it for her books in a bigger way than just like looking up oysters. And that's not an accusation, it's just a curiosity. So here's a TikToker who's kind of breaking down this whole thing really well.
I genuinely, honest to God, fucking cannot stand Jessa Hastings, and like, there's a slew of reasons why, but her most recent Instagram stories are just reinvigorating the irritation that I have around this woman. For you to be an author and try and be so willfully ignorant as to why AI is harmful to your community is baffling to me. She went on a whole tangent, I'll try and put some screenshot up, about how if you've ever used maps or you've ever owned an Apple Watch, or you've ever had an Aura ring, like, get fucked, you stupid cunt, because it doesn't fucking matter and you're using AI. If I am using something and I unwillingly am forced to have AI integrated into something that I have to use on a daily basis, what the fuck am I supposed to do? If I have to go from point A to point B, what you're telling me is that I can't have an opinion on AI unless I'm using a goddamn atlas? No, you dumb motherfucker. You know that's not what this conversation is. You're trying to spin your fucking words like you do in all your goddamn books with your cheating trope, whatever the fuck you want to write, and manipulate this conversation to fit your narrative when you know it's not true. When you're using AI to create a character's Met Gala opinions, you're being fucking stupid. Because then it just makes me think, well, how uncreative are you? How unoriginal are you? What in your book did you get out of AI? Because bitch, can't you write for shit? The way that AI works and the way that it specifically harms the reader community is that AI cannot create. And I think that people seem to forget that. Like, there is no universe in where AI can make something out of thin air. AI illegally steals other artists' work, or it steals other authors' writing, and it feeds it into its system, feeds it into its algorithm, so that when you Google something or look up something on an AI generator, it makes you this like Mod Podge half-assed something of something that already exists. It's why so many authors have been getting caught plagiarizing because they've been using these AI formulators. AI cannot create, and that's the problem. It's illegally stealing and taking from authors and artists and putting it into their generator so that other authors and artists, quote unquote, can then use it to create, quote unquote, a new product, quote unquote. And even if you don't want to give a fuck about that, the environmental impact that AI has on the world is detra-fucking-mental. Google like an AI plant. Google what needs like the technology and how big these systems are to be able to run and do what they do. The amount of heat and energy that they take to be able to work is awful for the environment. So me being forced to use a chatbot because it's my only option, or having to use Apple Maps because I gotta get from point A to point B, is not the same as you playing dress-up games with your fictional fucking character. And for anyone in this space, whether it be author or creator, for you to publicly align yourself with AI is stupid. Because I guarantee you, if someone came out with an AI-generated version of one of your books, you would sue their ass. And it's so fucked up for people like Mariana, whatever the fuck her name is, to create advertisement for these platforms that are stealing money and content from the people that she so closely aligns herself with. You're getting paid from both sides. You're getting paid from the authors that are giving their livelihoods and their heart and their energy and everything that they do into creating, and then you're getting paid from the people that are stealing from them. And if you're a no moral bitch, then fine. Do what you want to fucking do, but don't whine your ass off when people are going to call you out for your shit. And don't expect to have a place in this space that is so anti-AI if that's the stance that you're going to take. Not to mention that Jessa Hastings is very pro-life, has aligned herself with Israel on multiple occasions, is publicly associated with a church that is pro-life and anti-LGBTQIA+, has consistently invaded reader spaces on multiple occasions, participated in the whitewashing of her own character at the beginning of her career, continually threatens her own fan base just because they love a character so much. Like, the list literally goes on and fucking on. But like, oh my god, really?
And here is another woman who actually works in cybersecurity, whose job is actually educating people on ethical usage of AI, explaining why Jessa is a moron.
Jessa Hastings doesn't understand AI, allegedly, and here's why. I'm Amy, I work in cybersecurity, and every day I educate staff on responsible and ethical use of AI. And I wanted to talk about this specifically from the point of view of what AI actually is. Let me put up what she said on the screen right now, and I'm going to pull up my notes so we can get into it. So firstly, Jessa is lumping together autocorrect, Siri, spam filters, Netflix recommendations, and generative AI as if they're all equally harmless and interchangeable, which is not the truth. First, let's talk about predictive AI. This is where it guesses what comes next. It essentially is when Jessa is talking about the Netflix recommendations, or on Spotify when it creates albums for you, it is predicting based on patterns. I'm talking all by function here. So conversational AI is the Siri, the Alexa, it is chatbots. It's when you are directly interacting, where you receive an answer or it kind of interacts with you as well. It's probably a better explanation of that, to be fair. And then lastly is generative AI. There are many different types of AI I could go into, not by function, but for this I'm going to talk about generative AI and the problem with it creating brand new content. And the way that it does that is by using existing content that is copyrighted, content that is not to be made available in terms of it being profited on, but it is. So ChatGPT can write a blog post, it could also write a novel, it could mimic and generate art, it could generate an artist's voice, a writer's voice, or their particular style. So if Jessa Hastings doesn't care about that, then why don't I just type in right now into ChatGPT, write me a synopsis, write me a character outline, write me a plot based on Jessa Hastings' writing, and then see how she feels about that. Argument there is that we can't replicate the work. Well, all your work's in there, so these tools can do that. The problem that Jess doesn't realize is that these technologies are being used, but they're being used in irresponsible ways, where artists' work are being used without their consent. And that is a huge problem to the industry, to creativity, to the way that we go forward in the publishing world. The problem I have with it, and what she has said, is that it's completely different to spam filters and Netflix recommendations, and it's not even on the same playing field when we're talking about AI. We're talking about generative AI. The whole AI has been in many software tools for a really long time, and then to just say it's all the same is completely ridiculous. You are not a hypocrite for using autocorrect, Grammarly, whatever it may be. But when someone's creative work is used to train a model without credit, payment, or permission, that's where the problem lies.
So some other things that are not problematic about her, but just strange, She has 3 separate Instagram accounts that are all active and all also have basically the same content. So she's got like official blue checkmark Jessa Hastings. Then she's got House of Hastings official with, again, pretty much the same exact content. And then she's got Magnolia Parks Universe, which seems like it should be different because like it should be focused on that series, but it's not. There's stuff about all of her books there. And it was mentioned earlier in passing that she also does a lot of like themed photo shoots, which I guess are whatever, but why? Go write your books. She comes off as just very self-obsessed, and it's super off-putting. Okay, so now it's been a little over a week since her latest book, Time of Your Life, was released, and reviews are definitely a mixed bag, but they actually seem to be veering more negative than I expected, given her huge fan base. It seems like her bold stance on AI has actually turned a lot of people away from her, and now that she's spoken so loudly about it, folks are looking at her writing with a different lens. And it's worth mentioning that the reviews I'm about to read you aren't by people who don't like her. I purposely chose reviews to feature where the reviewer mentioned how excited they were and what a disappointment the book was. So, just to be clear on that. Maeve says, I genuinely thought I was blessed for getting my pre-order early. Turns out it was more of a curse. This is hands down the worst book I've read all year. I honestly have no idea how this made it past an editor. Eden says, DNF'd coming from someone who has never given a Jessa Hastings book less than 5 stars. Characters just feel like Magnolia and BJ in a different font, like she is trying to one-up them, but that soul tie connection that makes Magnolia and BJ so addicting isn't there. I don't know what this was, but I couldn't even get through 50 pages. There were so many run-on sentences mixed with 2 to 3 word sentences, the writing just doesn't flow at all. Shauna says, DNF'd at 35%. Life is too short to read books you aren't enjoying. Amen. I'm really disappointed because I am a Magnolia Parks and Daisy Hates fan, but this is a copy and paste of Magnolia and BJ. The characters feel the exact same, but set in the 90s, but I'm not even getting any 90s vibes, which is even more disappointing because I was excited for those vibes. I also find Joa annoying and his Manchester slang is hard to get into. Libby says, this was so disappointing after Conditions of Will was a 5-star for me. The love interest is the worst person ever. He is so childish and unbearable. Also, the writing was so frustrating. Tells us he's from Manchester and move on. The slang made me want to bang my head against the wall. Definitely the worst male character she's ever written. I actually hate him. And some that I don't actually know if these are from fans or not, but reviews that I found amusing. Tay says, she says she wrote this book in 31 days, and oh boy, it shows. The insta-love was absolutely insane. Isolde has no personality beyond being beautiful. Seriously, she constantly thinks about how beautiful she is. And that's basically her entire character, and lack of self-respect. Joa is insufferable. I couldn't stand his point of view. The written-out accent was painful to read, and he said fuck and you know what I mean every 2 paragraphs. Neither of them were likable at all. Their relationship had 0 depth or development, and I had no emotional investment because they were in love since chapter 2. The book is so cringe. I felt like a teenager wrote a fantasy about her being a model and having her favorite rock star fall in love with her. The overuse of M-dashes was concerning, especially considering Jessa said she uses ChatGPT to research and is all in on AI. The book was deeply misogynistic. There were no 90s vibes at all. Also, it feels like the author's a little too in love with her own writing in a bad way. The story itself was dull. Nothing actually happened. It felt like poorly written Oasis fanfiction, and she wasn't even subtle about it. Bianca said, I knew this was going to be bad when the marketing campaign focused more on the author and photos of herself than on the actual content of the book. I knew this was going to be bad when the author said she wrote it in a month. I knew this was going to be bad when the author admitted she used ChatGPT to do the research. Even so, nothing prepared me for just how bad this book turned out to be. The quality of the writing is so immature and childish that my niece could write something better. The sentence structure is atrocious. The endless barrage of forced metaphors is unbearable. Truly, every single thing about this book is downright awful. And here is like an example of some of the like promotion that user was saying about like the marketing campaign focused more on the author and photos of herself than the book, because I'm gonna change the music because of copyright, but the actual song is Just Like Heaven by The Cure. how exactly that video is going to sell a book. And if she's just having fun doing a little photo shoot, that's great for her, but I don't know. Are the 90s in the room with us? Disappointed is an understatement. This book claims to be set in 1995, and yet I felt absolutely none of the vibes. I swear it could have taken place in literally any other era. If you're going to sell your book with 90s vibes, then bring it. Otherwise, just set it in 2020 and call it a day. And someone replied and said, girl, I'm on page 226 and nothing feels 90s about this. Like there's a certain phone mentioned, Brad Pitt. I don't know what else. I feel I've been duped. And, you know, there are plenty of positive reviews as well. But those do seem to read like they are exclusively from established fans, which is not meant to imply anything except that I'm not sure how well this book is bringing in new readers. Because even people that did like the book agree that the main couple is basically Magnolia and BJ repackaged. This is a 4-star review that says basically Magnolia and BJ but in a different font. Still ate it up though. Now respectfully, give us Daisy, my gosh. Jessa won't like that one. Megan says, after the train wreck that was Conditions of Will, Jessa is back to writing what she does best. Messy British rich people with toxic love. Did I eat it up? Unfortunately, I did. This is like the MPU if Magnolia was less whiny and BJ was a whole lot more stupid. I've never despised an MMC like I do Joa, but I absolutely adore Isolde, and if she doesn't move on from him in part 2, or at least make him grovel a ton, I'm gonna be mad. And this is a 4-star review, so like obviously liked it, but Abigail says, this was so Magnolia and BJ coded and I didn't mind it one bit. Also, is it bad that I'm rooting for Isolde to be with Richie? Which is, you know, not the character that was written to be the male love interest. So we'll see how Jessa is going to handle that. Maddie says, welcome back Magnolia Parks and BJ Ballantyne. So from here, you know, it's anyone's guess what happens with her and if she will see more backlash as she releases more books. I do think that she is so beloved by fans that she will have some, like, blindly following like Britt Andrews fans are. And, well, as far as I know, she didn't steal $100,000 from her readers. She's still done plenty to turn people against her. So we'll just have to see how long it can go on before people are just completely over it. Now on to my favorite part of my videos, the Indie Author Spotlight. And today I am featuring Cody Wayne Morris, a queer indie author and a YouTuber. He also performs in local theater productions. And he published his first book this year, The Ghostwriters Club, and is currently in revisions for a dual POV paranormal thriller, which he expects to have out next summer. And he's also starting to draft the first novel in a fantasy series, which in his mind is a mashup of Steven Universe, The Hunger Games, and The Witch's Road from Agatha All Along. Now, the book he already has out, The Ghostwriters Club, is a mystery thriller set at Westview Writing Academy. It features a group of 5 writers who are being forced to solve the murder of Lexi Pruitt, a member of their group who was found dead in her car the previous summer. Logan, the newcomer, wants the full story, and when anonymous threats seem to condemn the ghostwriters, he must work with his new friends to solve the murder, all while potentially working with Lexi's killer. Sounds pretty cool, and I love books about writers. So down in the description is a link to Cody's social media, along with where you can purchase his books if these sound like something you'd enjoy. Indie authors are a vital part of the bookish community, so please make sure to show your support wherever you can, even if that just means a follow on social media. And if you'd like to be featured in my Indie Author Spotlight, I do have a form linked in the description as well. So if you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more just like it, make sure you are subscribed. I do also have a Patreon if you're interested in supporting me over there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!